Hey everyone, this is Sarah, the Rainbow Hearted Witch. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you've been enjoying the tarot flip throughs. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I had it set up where I was going to film under black light, but it just didn't look right. Plus, I kind of wrote this out because I tried filming this last weekend and it's a story. It's story time. How exciting. So, I was all over the place, so I wrote it up. I will just be glancing at my notes quickly just to make sure that I touch everything. So this is going to be a spooky story time. This is a ghost story, a real life ghost story from my childhood that spanned childhood, teens, and adult. So let's get started. So, as a child, I always had nightmares. I always would wake up in the middle of the night crying and really upset, really terrified. And my mom always thought it was because I watched Transformers or He-Man or She-Ra or whatever. But I really don't think that had anything to do with it. As I got older, I developed insomnia, and my favorite way to stay awake and pass the time of not being able to sleep was reading R.L. Stein, Goosebumps, and anything spooky and scary, which probably didn't help the situation of, as we'll find out later, why I had insomnia so bad. So anyone who would sleep in the bedroom that I slept in as a child and growing up, they would have nightmares themselves. One of my friends who is also psychic, she said she would see a dark figure. I conferred with her, we talked about it. It's interesting because I've always been interested in ghosts, love ghost stories, I love spooky things. It's interesting, I'm not, like, I like spooky, I like paranormal stuff, but I don't like scary. And I don't really find paranormal stuff scary. I won't tell you what I do find scary though. So when I was a teenager, I was reading, my friend, she let me borrow the Zohar, and I was reading books on how to astral project, and I was learning about astrology, and I was reading all this stuff, but I made the mistake, I was reading Jay's journal, which was supposed to be a real life journal of a boy who got mixed up in studying the occult. And of course, it's a cautionary tale, and I think it was mainly fabricated, even though it was supposed to be based on truth. I don't think it was. I think it was anti-occult propaganda. So anyway, it was interesting that I was reading these things, and I put the books down at the side of my bed on the floor, and I laid down, and all of a sudden I'm looking down at my body, and I look over to the right, and there's a dark figure standing over me, and I look back down at my body, and I look back at him, and I'm like, oh shit. Snap back in my body, I open my eyes, I turn and look at the clock. Only a couple minutes have passed. I knew I hadn't fallen asleep. This wasn't REM, this wasn't, it was real. I had a real life out-of-body experience. I had astral projected, and in doing so, I was able to actually, like, physically see the man standing over my bed. And so that freaked me out. I stopped reading the Zohar. I think I finished Jay's journal, and I was absolutely terrified. And I think I kind of cut back on reading scary stories, but my insomnia persisted. So, I grew up, I went to college. My nephew, he loved to, spend the night at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Well, he got to the point where he was sick of the nightmares as well. He would wake up crying and have horrible nightmares. He got to the point where he's like, hey, look, Grandma and Grandpa, like, I want to spend the night here, but I'm going to sleep on the couch. So they would make up the couch so he wouldn't have to sleep in that room. I mean, that bedroom was always a good 20 degrees colder than the rest of the house. It would not matter. Like, it was always cold in there. Anyone who slept in there would have nightmares. So we're gonna fast forward to 10 years. And I got back into spirituality, doing Reiki, studying Reiki, and I think that being older and the Reiki being more heart-centered and me being mindful, like I had stopped reading ghost stories and stopped enjoying really the spooky stuff. Like, I really didn't do that too much anymore. But I had a dream, and it was about a native tribe, and they were living on the land where my parents built, and they were asleep. And in the night, the colonial settlers or some people came through and just murdered everyone. And the man trapped in my bedroom was actually trapped to the land. He was their chief, and he was so angry, which he had every right to be angry. I would have been furious and filled with rage as well. So his soul was trapped because he had so much rage and vengeance. He wanted vengeance. He wanted to make the wrong right. So he was trapped on that land. So it wasn't that the house was haunted, it was the land. And sometimes it's not a house that's haunted. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's an object. Sometimes it's the land. Sometimes it's just an energetic imprint because something really traumatic happened there. But anyway, so it was also revealed to me in the dream that if the foundation had been moved over about a foot more for the house to be built, they would have found their remains. So my room was the closest to where their remains were. So I woke and I, told my parents about it, and they were like, "Oh no, that can't be. That's, there were no natives in the area," which I don't know what they were talking about. There was natives all over this country, and it was on a river. They live near a river. Of course there were. So I don't know what they were talking about. Anyway, so there was a psychic fair coming up, and so I drove the hour and a half away because all the cool psychic places had to drive an hour and a half for these events. So I drove, and there was a woman there. Her name was Sophia, and she said she would do drawings to clear your land or whatever it was that had negative energy or entities. And I sit down and she starts drawing, and she draws my parents' house and the shed behind it perfectly. And she's she's explaining as she's drawing. She explains my dream to a T, and it confirms everything that I had just learned in my dream, and says, "Well, I've cleared the land. I've cleared it. He has been released, and there will no longer be any hauntings." So I go home, and I noticed the shift. And sometime, I think a couple weeks went by, and I was downstairs in the basement, and I don't know if I was doing Reiki or a tarot reading or what, but I see twinkle lights everywhere. The chief pops in, he says thank you, and he pops out. He had crossed over, his soul was free, he was in the light, and no more rage, no more vengeance. And it was just so beautiful that he was able to find peace. And even though I did not do the clearing, it just felt nice to be able to have that happen. So I've experienced other ghosts, and when they've crossed over, they appear as twinkling lights. They're very light. They're very, they're not dense. There's no dense energy. They're filled with light, with energy, and it's absolutely beautiful. And when loved ones come in and check on you and they want to make their presence known, they'll twinkle their little, they can twinkle the lights. I've seen that too. It's very cool. So ghosts who are earthbound are very dark because they're cut off from source energy. They're cut off from God or the goddess or universal life force energy, which is what we call it in Reiki. So they are not connected and they're not in the flow of the universe. It's unnatural. So they start to lose their light, and that's why they become heavier and denser. And what they do is they really do become vampiric. They have to keep you awake, because by keeping a human awake, they're able to draw light from you. They're able to draw there's a fly. They're able to draw the energy from you. So this is why they will cause nightmares. They will cause insomnia. They will keep you up. Eventually it does. It can create illness. It can create sickness. They're literally draining your life force energy. This is why it's so important, if you're the haunted person, to take salt baths or to sage or to cleanse. If you think it's your house, cleanse. Use like sage, or dragon's blood, or or you can use holy water, but you have to, whatever you're using to cleanse, you have to connect with it. You have to feel that it has to be within your belief, and it has to be something that you believe wholeheartedly. Because if you're using something that's not maybe from your background or your beliefs, then it gets a little dicey. So I watched this really amazing video. Oh, I forgot. His name is Damien Eccles, I think. He did this whole video about vampires and how vampires are made magically. And this is something that they were originated from the pharaohs. The pharaohs became vampires. That's why they preserved the body, and that's why offerings and gifts were made. They would act as, emissaries between the living and the dead, and do bidding for the living. Unfortunately, of course, as traditions fall away, then that spirit has to go looking for energy to take. So because of the magic that was used to tie that soul to the land, I'm sure that they need more energy, and I'm sure that the sickness that's created from stealing your energy is much faster than earthbound spirits who are not aware of what they're doing. They're either lost, they're confused, they're usually angry, maybe they don't even know they've passed on. So there's a big difference between something that's done consciously, where that's the vampires, and then the earthbound ghosts. Sometimes they just don't even know they're not living anymore. So they can become disoriented. But I'm gonna link his video down below because that's really fascinating. I did not know that about vampires, so that was really cool. So yeah, it's definitely important to help earthbound spirits to cross over. It's interesting that I decided to do this video and I just finished reading this book, Elotsoe by Darcie Little Badger, and this book is amazing. It talks about a 17-year-old indigenous girl who can wake the dead, and her companion, her closest companion, is the spirit of her dog that passed away, and it's just amazing. I love hearing about the Lipan Apache family and the burial rites and beliefs about ghosts and burial in this book. And it just makes me wonder if maybe the Christian way of burial, of we have a grave site and people go, if that's not causing problems, because I know that sometimes people can have attachments and they have spirit attachments to the attachments. And to try to clear out all the attachments, it's a lot of work. And I'm wondering if maybe our burial practices are wrong. I don't know. It's interesting. It's something that maybe I'm kind of like fascinated by, which is kind of weird, right? I know. But this book just got me really thinking, there's different traditions and there's different burial traditions and beliefs about ghosts across cultures. And her culture, you don't talk about the dead, you don't say their name, you don't want to wake them, because the spirit that comes back is not the person. It will be rage, it will be vengeance, it will be really bad. And in this book, the ghosts, if they do wake up, they can physically kill humans. So I'm not sure how much of the traditions and the stories in here are based on true beliefs, or if some of it's kind of, um, made, fictionalized. So I don't know, I might do some research on that because it's pretty interesting. And then this other book that I read around the time when I had the dream and was having my spiritual awakening and saw that spirit, I read this book, When Ghosts Speak, by Maryann Winkowski. And this book is really good because it talks about the different earthbound spirits and the different ghosts, and not everything is a ghost, and the fact that it was human. There are nature spirits and there's spirits of the land. So sometimes that's what's quote unquote haunting you. We don't go around asking for permission to build, and there are other beings in the universe besides what we see physically. So this book was really excellent for nonfiction, and then this book, which is fiction. I just love these two books. So I will link them down below. I hope you all enjoyed my story time, and I will see you all next time. Bye. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below and please subscribe. I will be uploading videos every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Arizona time. Bye, guys.